thing to do. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayit. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय कृष्णाय नमो नमः नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांग्रहे ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिने इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती वाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna everyone, and welcome you all in our ongoing discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. And we have entered nearly end of chapter Canto 4. So yesterday we discussed about how Narad Muni explained Prachina Bari, again what the story he narrated about that, about Puranjana, and then at the end we see how he took another birth as Vaidharvi, and Avigyata, his unknown friend, and says he that no, we are a very eternal friend, as soul and super soul. However, due to because of enjoying this material world, we have come down here, and you have come down here, and then you are being lost in this whole family affairs and everything in this material world. And then Narada Muni start narrating about more that the we stopped here that this the roaming of living entity from the higher planet to lower planets and to different species is compared to a street dogs. Basically, he goes here and there, but that's for just for some foods. And then we understood that we can, if we can want to elevate, we need to take the shelter of Lord Krishna, right? And how we can escape this misery. And then again, Narada Muni explains more that this misery is in today's in material world is like shifting the problem from one shoulder to the other one. Just for example, let's suppose we are walking and we are going ahead and we have a huge kind of maybe a luggage carrying on one shoulder, right? When we walk along a long way, the shoulder gets pained, isn't it? And one we think, okay, it's paining here, let me shift it to either to head or to another shoulder. And as soon as we shift the luggage from one shoulder to the other one, we get a bit relief for this shoulder. However, the problem or the pain starts again coming in this shoulder. So in this material world, the miseries are like this. When we try to hanker for something, we solve it, and the next one, a bigger one, is again waiting for it. He says, a man carry a burden on his head, and when he feels it to be too heavy, he sometimes gives relief to the head by putting the burden on his shoulder. And in this way, he tries to relieve himself of the burden. However, whatever the process he devises to contract the burden, does not nothing but it does nothing but that put the same burden from one place to another. So it means that we have constructed so many roads, yet these roads are insufficient to cope with the automobile congestion and traffic jam. Prabhupada writes that we are advancing, we are creating so many highways and roads and flyovers, but still we see that still the congestion and traffic jam is still there. And there are also problems of air pollution and fuel shortage, And the conclusion is that the process we manufacture in this, advancement is actually, it's not, it try to contract the or minimize the, our distress, but still it is doing nothing, just putting up pain and pain and pain. Right. In a similar way, then he starts explaining that what is the solution for it. Because the problem is there. The problem is we are shifting our burden from one shoulder to head or to other shoulder. But what is the solution for that? And he explains, Narada Muni, that bhakti is a solution. Just 1 second. Let me put my charger. He says bhakti is a solution, and that's the only remedy. And how can we do bhakti? He's saying hearing and chanting from one of our spiritual master or from an authority. And basically, if you see, we have been hearing the same repeatedly from Canto 1, isn't it? We need to hear and chant. So these are the two bases of Nada Bhakti, hearing and chanting, Sravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Then comes the how we can remember Lord. And the most auspicious thing is basically drinking Krishna Katha or hearing the nectar of Krishna Katha. Then Narada Muni explains that, my dear king, in the place where pure devotees live, following the rules and regulations, and thus purely conscious and engaged in great devotion, great eagerness in hearing and chanting the glories of Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, in that place, if one gets a chance to hear their constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like the waves of a river, one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kinds of fear, lamentation, and illusion. So the three things goes away. We discussed earlier as well that what bhaya and shok and moha. So fear, lamentation, and illusion. So we lament for the past, what has been gone. We have something, we lost it, and we start lamenting in that. And we have a fear for the next, what's coming. We don't know what's coming there. And in the present also, we are in illusion. We're working for something which in future we do not know for that. And then he says, by instructing, he gives more instructions to Barishat or Prachina Bhari, that these are the ways how we can go. And he says that even Lord Brahma, even not Lord Shiva, the Chatush Kumara, even myself means Narada Muni, he says no one is actually capable of knowing Krishna completely. However, devotees knows the Lord by devotional service. So to know Lord, the process is devotional service. And when devotional service is rendered to Lord, the devotee starts knowing Krishna, because Krishna within the heart is dwelling what he is. And even the Vedic rituals are not the goal for knowing him. Even Krishna says, Vedas sarvesh ahmeva vedyo. The Vedas are actually meant to know him. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, he says that Brahma bhuvana loka punavartina arjuna mamapetittu kauntena punarjanmana vidyate. Even we were discussing yesterday about question that if you go back to spiritual world, what happens? Can we come back again? So Krishna says clearly that Brahma bhuvana loka, from the highest planet, from the planet of Brahma loka till all punar avartino, there is a repetition of birth and death. However, mamapetittu kaunteya, hey Arjuna, if someone goes to my abode, then punarjanman vidyate, there is no more birth. Right, we'll discuss it again actually if I have time today on this topic a bit more. And then Prabhupada says that in this Kali Yuga, that we heard earlier as well in Bhagavatam Mahatmya, that Kalir Dosha Nidhe Rajan Asti Hai Ek Mahan Guna Kritnad Eva Krishnasya, chanting the holy name of Lord, Mukta Sangha Param Brajed. It actually it gives relief to from this material contamination, material miseries, and actually it places the soul to the lotus of feet of Supreme Lord, or we go back to a spiritual kingdom, and where we have our spiritual body, and then we can engage ourselves in service over there to Lord Krishna. However, he says to Prachina Bhari that you have foolishly kills so many animals. Because actually, if you see, Narad Muni came to instruct Prachina Bhari that he was so much engaged in killing animals on sacrifices, by sacrificing, doing sacrifices. And he says, after all this narration is concluded, you are foolishly engaging yourself in killing of animals. He says, one who is engaged in devotional service has not the least fear in material existence. So means anyone who is actually in pure devotional service, they fear nothing. Why? This is because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the super soul and is friend of everyone. We understood that Avigyata, or the unknown friend, or the best unknown friend, who resides within us and with us. And then he explained that one who knows secret is actually educated. And thus, educated can become spiritual master of the world. And anyone who is this kind of education, who has gone with the devotional service and know that Krishna as supreme soul or super soul also reside within our heart, and one who is actually bona fide spiritual master, representative Krishna is not different from Krishna. He says that the spiritual master is actually one who is a representative of Krishna, because he propagate the the knowledge of Krishna, by which actually we can cross this nescence of mental existence and go back to spiritual world. And he says one who is engaged in devotional service is least fear in this mental existence. He never fear for anything. And then he gives another small analogy for very very short. He says a deer was absorbed enjoying in the forest with his companion, isn't it? And what happens? But a deer does not notice that from one side a hunter and from another side a tiger is actually approaching to attack him. So another story Narada is explaining here in a very short, in just 3 or 4 verses. He says that deer is actually enjoying in the forest with his, maybe with his children and kids. It's actually for us actually. And from one side a hunter is coming, and from one side a tiger is attacking, ready to attack, but deer is ignorant of it. And what is that in present is, the deer is we living entity or living being, we entrapped in this body, enjoying with everything, or just for engaging our body or human life for sense enjoyment. The tiger is the time. We heard about earlier that Kalakanya, the same time, tiger is time here, and the hunter coming from other side is the lord of death, Yamaraj. So from one side the time is approaching, time is pushing us towards the death. Both are coming actually towards very near to us. And the deer is unknown of it, he is ignorant of it. Or sometimes as a human being we actually ignore it, that actually we have something to do, right? The parodharma, that is save pumsam parodharmo yeto bhakti dadokshaje ahituki apratiyata atma suprasiditi. We do not know how this soul can become happy when we surrender ourselves towards the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, to Adokshaja, who is actually above the three modes. Then the soul always remains happy. And that should be what? Ahituki apratiyata, without any motivation and uninterrupted. Right. In this way, he explains more about to Prachina Bhari that these are the things we should be understanding, and we should inquire ourselves that how can we go back to spiritual world. This is actually a very great message to all of us as well. Normally in this Kali Yuga we are so much entrapped with these things that we, even by knowingly also, we ignore that we have something to do for our spirituality, right? Even many people are there who says, no, there is no God, I don't believe in God, and I just believe in what I am. But that's not the fact. It's like, someone is a blind and who says, okay, I do not see sun, so there is no sun. But someone who has eyes can say him that the sun is there, and because of sun we can see everything. But the person is blind, so he might not be able to understand it. So that's how it is. We sometimes but ignore it, or we try to keep it apart. Okay, we will do it later on. But Narad Muni is explaining more. And then after all the discussion, Prashinavari asks some questions to Narad Muni. He says, "My dear Brahmana, whatever you have said, now I have heard with very great attention, and I'm actually considering all of it. However, and whatever you are saying, these are actually conclusion of the all acharyas and the teachers, and who engage. But the problem is that all the teachers, the acharyas who I have been in contact, why did not they give me this knowledge? And what was the problem that all the teachers, they haven't taught me this, and why none of this has explained me that?" Basically, very actually kind of relevant questions here, that he's saying why the teachers or acharyas have not been explained me these things earlier. And he asks a question again. He says the results of whatever living entity does in this life are enjoyed in next life, and the body, the answer is uh, and the body that performs the work in the last birth is already lost. So how it is possible to enjoy or suffer the reactions of that work in the different body? So these are the questions he's asking to Narad Muni. First question, why no one has explained me this earlier? And the second question is the body, when it is lost, then how the reactions or suffering is being actually he suffers or enjoy in next birth or next body. So, and he says, what are the proof of this? So these are the three questions he asked. What are the proof of this, and how the person is suffers in his next birth, and why no one has taught me? Then Narad Muni explains about the transmigration of soul, how the soul goes. I think we have discussed it earlier once as well. I've shown you the three slides where we have a yellow line as soul, and then the subtle body, that is man, buddhi, and ankar, the mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then outer body is pancha mahabhut, or bhumi, apo, anala, vayu. And then he explains the same thing. He says the body is forced to act by the subtle body. What is subtle body? Which is mind, intelligence, and false ego. And after that, the gross body is lost. The subtle body is actually remain there with the soul, and it doesn't change anything. Like it's like a dream. Like a dream, one may give up everything, isn't it? And in the dream, we forget everything that what we have, or we might see ourselves. We did earlier example that in a dream, a person can see his head cut off, but as soon as he get up from the dream, he says, "No, my head is all intact." So no one can actually see his head cut off, but in a dream he could see it. In the similar way, at death, one gives up this body and acquires a new body or new birth. And then he explained that all the material impression that stored in the mind goes from one body to another, because the soul is intact with the subtle body, and the subtle body takes him to the next body, right? And then he explained that the mind is actually a storehouse of thoughts. So as we spend our whole life, because there are unlimited thoughts we have in our mind, thoughts, maybe desires and experiences, all are stored in our mind. And in the next birth, that impressions go with it. And when we awaken our real identity, we do not have to experience this transmigration. So let's basically, when we take the spiritual path, or when we go back to Godhead, we leave out the subtle body here inside in this material world, and we just soul takes a new body, or call as spiritual body. And he gives an example as well. The subtle body is not destroyed when the senses are inactive. Even when our senses are, senses are our material body senses, hand, legs, but when they are inactive, the subtle body is still active. And self-awareness is lost during the sleep. He's giving example, even in sleep we forget everything. And maybe we see sometimes that we have achieved death, or we have some we are falling from somewhere else, but that's all we can see. But in reality, when we wake up, it's nothing there. And then he explained that the undeveloped senses in the womb, it happens, but the youth is inactive, it's not much active over there. But the senses, when the youth grows, it becomes more active. As the person grows up, the the subtle mind, which has been stored earlier, which came within the soul, it start acting on it. And in the same way, if you see, we can see, take so many examples how it happens. We have seen that some people are actually, they are inclined towards doing something very good. Maybe someone is inclined towards music thing, someone are inclined towards studying. Even in study also, they are inclined towards some towards mathematics, some toward physics, some toward biology. That's actually comes coming from our previous life, and how we have used our previous lives as well. And all of a sudden, when we see the incline to some activity, that actually because from our last life. Even in our life, when we see something happens to us, and we change our thoughts, we change our route. Okay, no more going there. Maybe sometimes we think, okay, now it's done, I won't smoke anymore, finished. So maybe the desire to do sinful activities which were earlier, that has been stopped now, we took another good path to go over there. And then he explained that material consciousness can be transformed to spiritual consciousness. That's a very important thing. He's explaining that the consciousness what we have in our mind, the thoughts and the desires and experience that's stored in our mind, that can be transferred into spiritual consciousness. And when we transform those consciousness to spiritual consciousness, that's done by bhakti yoga, and then we actually go back to spiritual kingdom. That's basically transformation who happens from material to spiritual. He explains example that the caterpillar, it actually transport himself from one leaf to another, capturing one leaf before giving up the other. In a similar way, the body takes another body. As soon as he gives one body, he takes another body. Right? It means the subtle mind, intelligence, and false ego, it remains with the soul, and that goes towards the next one. And then after he explaining everything, the Prachinabhari, he renounces. He said, okay. And as he's given by all the questions and answers to Prachinabhari, he was explained very well that the real goal of life is to attain spiritual kingdom, to do bhakti yoga unto Supreme Lord. Then Prachinabhari went. He retired, and he went for austerity, and he did perfected his life by doing bhakti and attained spiritual kingdom. And then still this time, remember his sons, 10 sons, the Prachetas, they are not back yet. And they were actually engaged in doing austerity. And they were doing austerity what? The Lord Shiva has given them the Rudra Gita. By they're chanting that mantras within the underneath of the ocean or the lake, that lake, for 10,000 years. They did austerity for 10,000 years, and then they came back. And here it explained that when one hears this story of Prachinabhari and about the narration of Narada Muni, it actually sanctifies our material world, it purifies our heart, and it liberates, also elevates to the spiritual world. And it clears our doubts of bodily conception. So how Narada Muni explains very well that how this body, the soul, is been entrapped in this body, and how it actually, the senses and desires is actually make him trapped, and he goes on from birth to death and to another cycle over there and over there. And these doubts is being cleared when someone hear this story again and again. Right? And then we enter to the 31st chapters, where the Prachetas, they they were worshipping Lord Vishnu underwater, and for 10,000 years, and they achieved Vishnu. So Lord Vishnu, he came in front of them to show them and shower them the mercy over there. And how Lord Vishnu saved, and actually in meanwhile, when the story came finishes of Prashin Bahari, Maitreya Muni, Vidura asked that what happened to the Prachetas? They have been worshipping Lord underneath in the water. They are doing so many severe austerities. Then what happened to them? Then Maitreya Muni start explaining again back to those that they satisfied Lord Vishnu by the prayers given to them by their spiritual master or Lord Shiva. And that's Rudra Gita. And they have been doing this for 10,000 years. And Lord Vishnu appeared there in his Garuda, and he gave darshan inside the water. Imagine, can we imagine that a bird can fly within the water, within the ocean? It's not possible. However, the Garuda came, and Lord was in his back, and they gave darshan to the whole 10 prachetas. And Lord was very glorious, and he this time he came with 8 arms, and he has again yellow garments and costume money hanging with that, very nice, waist belts, and all the garlands and the tinkling earrings. And we discussed earlier that Lord Krishna's face is actually the ornament of the ornaments, and ornaments are being glorified when they are being they are being served to Lord. And then he says, Lord start talking to the Prachetas, and what he says that you are actually, Lord says, I am very much pleased with you because you have maintained friendship within yourself very well while performing bhakti. Right? When we see sometimes, there being some here and there conflicts happens when we go on to those things. But Krishna says, you have been performing bhakti within your 10, and very, very in a very friendly manner. Lord says, my dear sons of the king, I am very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you, and all of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I am so pleased with your mutual friendships, and I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask any benediction from me. So, as you know, Lord, when he comes, he says the devotees, okay, you ask for benediction. And then he says, the Lord, those who remembers the story of Prachetas, they'll develop very close friendships, right? And those who will offer me the obeisances composed by Lord Shiva, both in this morning and in evening, will be given a benediction by me. In this way, they can both fulfill their desires and attain good intelligence. That's been told by Lord Vishnu to Prachetas. And in devotional service, everyone has actually the same goal, but there may be some different ways, or different, like different attractions to maybe uh, someone maybe attracted to Lord Shiva, to Lord Rama, to Lord Baraha, Lord Dev, in this way. But Lord is always compassionate towards his devotees, right? And then he says that you have actually performed uh, this bhakti with very submissiveness, and submissiveness is being glorified here. He says, because you have with your pleasure accepted within your heart the orders of your father, and have executed those orders very faithfully, your attractive qualities will be celebrated all over the world. Krishna is saying that because of your submissiveness towards your spiritual master, towards Lord Shiva, the instructions was given even to you, your father, Prachinabhari, and you will be glorified all over the world. And then Lord instructed them to marry a girl named Marisha. So Marisha is a daughter of sage Kandu, and Apsara called as Pramalocha. So basically, again, there is a story behind it, but so once what happened? Once uh, Kandu was actually, the sage Kandu was doing austerities, and we we heard earlier as well how whenever Indra used to do something when he get afraid of insecurity of his place, his position, and then he sent an apsara called as Pramalocha. He sent Pramalocha to distract the sage Kandu. Earlier we have seen how Indra used to take the horses of Prithu Maharaj, and here he actually sent apsara named Pramalocha to distract Kandu, and Pramalocha could, she was Apsara, she could distract Kandu, and they got engaged, and they 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 begot a child, a daughter basically. And the Apsara, after this, the distraction or attention of the sage is being, disturbed. She went back to his abode, and or Apsara Loka, and then she said, I won't be taking care of this child because I have something else to do. And she went over there. And the sage, he also denied to take care of the child or the daughter. He said, I'm a sage, I can't take handle of this child now. And the child was lying alone there. However, the Lord of Trees, the moon god, the Lord of Tree, and he took care. He actually put one of his thumb uh, to the in the mouth of the child, and the child was nourished. And that child or that girl is Marisha. And Lord is saying that, okay, you marry to Marisha. And then Prachetas, they offer obeisances to Lord, and he just explains about his qualities. He says the Pracheta just spoke that, my dear Lord, you relieve all kinds of mental distress, and your magnanimous transcendental qualities and holy name are all auspicious. And this conclusion is already settled. However, you can go faster than the speed of mind and words. You cannot be perceived by material senses. We therefore offer you respectful obeisances again and again. Because we, even, the fastest thing you can see is our mind, isn't it? By sitting here, just we can think of any place in this world and we can reach there. Maybe you can, in India to the Europe, whatever you want, you can just go over there. But he says you are faster than mind as well. And even Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that the material senses, and we cannot know Krishna by our material senses. Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that therefore the material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened by Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the holy names, Lord's holy name, and taste the remnants of Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. So here a practical applications is given that how can we understand Krishna? That what's by chanting the holy name Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. That's the one way, the one step. And the second, he says, by testing the remnants food offered to Lord. Means when we offer our bhoga or our whatever we eat to Lord Krishna, the tongue, because tongue is the source of everything. Tongue want to taste different things. Our belly don't want anything to eat. It just satisfies whatever we get. But the tongue says, okay, no, I want pizza, I want burger, I want this and this. And that taste, when he starts tasting the Lord's remnants or the prasadam, then purification for the law for the tongue happens. And by chanting the holy name, also the purification happens. And then one gradually comes to understand who Krishna is. Right. And then Lord, though he interacts with the material world, but he's always above the material world. He says, my dear Lord, we beg to offer our obeisances unto you, or when the mind is fixed upon you, the world of duality, although a place of material material enjoyment appears meaningless. So again, importance of fixing the mind into the Lord's lotus feet. And your transcendental form is full of transcendental bliss. We therefore offer our respects unto you. Your appearance as Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva are meant for the purpose of creating, maintaining, and annihilation of the cosmic manifestation. These are three uh, Guna avatars, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. And he says, Lord, you are always in pure goodness. By this, he offers more prayers. The Prachetas offers prayer to Lord, saying that no, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you because your existence is completely independent of all material influences. Your lordship always the devotees miserable conditions. So Krishna takes away the miserable conditions of the devotees, and for your brain plans how to do so, and you live everywhere as Paramatma, therefore you are known as Vasudeva. You also accept Vasudeva as your father, and you are celebrated by the name of Krishna, and you are so kind that you always increase the influence of all kinds of devotees. So that again, they glorified more to Lord Krishna, and with that glorification, the important thing is they say that it depends on how or on whom we are approaching to. So it's like, let's for example, a beggar. If a beggar goes toward kings and he asks, okay, give me some 5 or 10 pounds. King said, what are you asking for me? I'm a king and you're asking for just for 10 pounds. It's not worth of that. And then they say, what benedictions can we ask for you? And the highest benediction, what we can ask. See, Lord Vishnu, when he came and gave darshan to the Prachetas, he asked for benedictions. He said, okay, you asked for benediction now, and Prachetas are glorifying Lord, and now they have came to ask for benediction. And what they are saying, what can we ask you? We are beggars. A beggar going towards a king and asking something, it doesn't make any sense. But he says, the highest benediction is what? Association of the devotees. He says, my dear Lord, as long as we have to remain within this material world due to our metal contamination and wander from one type of body to another and from one planet to another, we pray that we may associate with those who are engaged in discussing your pastime. We pray for these benedictions life after life in different bodily forms and on different planets. Actually, Lord got bewildered. He says, everyone asks for mukti and liberations. What are asking me? You are saying, if you are being this, you can wander from one body to another, in one planet to another. However, they are wishing that wherever we are, doesn't matter we are in a hellish planet or in the heaven, but make sure that we are always engaged in discussing or engaged with the devotees who are discussing your pastime. So the Prachita is saying that what can we ask from you? We are beggars. And the best thing to ask from you is, please bless us that how can we get engaged or we always remain in the association of the devotees who are always discussing your pastimes. Right? It doesn't matter in which planet we are, but give us the boon that we are always engaged in the discussion of your Lord pastimes. And he says, even a moment's association with a pure devotee cannot be compared to being transferred to heavenly planets or even merging into Brahman's effulgence in complete liberations. For living entities who are designated to give up the body and die, association with pure devotee is the highest benedictions. And Dhruva Maharaj did he desire the same thing. Pruthvi Maharaj desire the same thing. Narada Muni is instructing about the same thing. And this is our topmost benediction that we should be somehow or other try to engage with the devotees or associate with them and discuss about Krishna Katha. I think there are more teachings over there, and I hope we will continue from here tomorrow. It's 2040. So we'll continue from here tomorrow, and we will be hopefully we'll be able to pay our obeisances to Canto 4 tomorrow, and we'll start Canto 5 day after that. Any questions, any thoughts, please let me know.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
So you said that the subtle body remains with the soul when it goes from one body to the other, and that includes mind as well. So mind is also thoughts, isn't it?
Yes.
And your past experiences and everything. Then why do we not remember our previous births?
Yeah, very nice question. Very nice question. Yes. See, so if you remember where we discussed about how the Kapila Devi is actually discussing that, uh, the birth and death, right? And in fact, if we are so fortunate, if we are fortunate enough, then actually we can remember Krishna in the womb of mother, and we pray to Krishna that okay, when we come back again to this material world, please make sure that we will try to come back to the spiritual world again. So the problem what happens is there is so much pain happens when we take this birth. That's why we forget everything. And the second thing devotee explains is very well that imagine why we don't remember. Imagine if we remember that, let's suppose, for myself, if I remember myself as I was pig in my last life, and if I could remember that okay, I was a pig in my last life and I was what the hell I was doing, then how painful the life will be to my, right? So this is the one way why we do not remember our past lives. And but the important thing is that it's the mercy of Lord. If Krishna's desire, we can remember it. We will see in Canto 5 how Bharat Maharaj, he renounced his kingdom. He went to do final austerities before going back to Godhead, and somehow or other he got attached to a deer. And when he got attached to deer, he took a birth as a deer. But by the mercy of Lord, even in the form of deer, he could remember everything his past life. So only because of mercy, or when Krishna showers mercy, we can remember our past lives. Even now also there are many, if I'll send you a link, you will see it. It's called as reincarnation. So I think someone, I forgot the name, he has done more than 3,000 cases of reincarnation in this world, right? And he has said that how the people are actually remembering their previous birth. So there is a story in of Lucknow as well. It's the story is comes from all the whole world, but the one story I remembered, and I just read it recently. It's from Lucknow.
Shanti Devi or something, if I'm not wrong.
That's not Shanti Devi one actually. It's a male one. So that Shanti Devi is one of those as well. So basically that point is that we can remember, but that again we mercy is needed from the Lord. But most of the time we forget it because that might be very much painful for us to live when we know what we have done in our past. Even there are, right? So that basically the point is we can remember our past lives by the mercy of Lord, and even because of mercy of Lord also we forget it, because it might be a more miserable of life when we think of okay, in the past life what I was, kind of that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, I just see that message now. So was it more
A lot of
freezing or?
internet issues actually in the middle. Like there was a lot of breaking, and you were freezing and all that. So
Oh, sorry.
Well, it's not you. I had the same problems on my end. I just went blank completely. This is my own issue. It's nothing to do with you, Prabhuji.
Okay, no problem. Maybe something. Okay.
Maybe it's too much rain.
Maybe, yeah. So Arjit Prabhu, you said, can you repeat what did Lord say to Prachetas? Okay. So I think I'll repeat it tomorrow again and we'll continue from there. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, we will repeat it again, that what the narration of again these two chapters, last two chapters, and we'll continue from there.
Okay, Prabhu. No problem.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Tomorrow.
Hare
Bye bye, everybody.
Who said with the little girl?
That was my daughter, Prabhuji.
Oh,
Joysa.
okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.